Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder. And boy, so like we do every week, we're here to talk about various media we've consumed to help you, the viewing public, decide if it's worth your own time, and also, just have a little bit of fun with it. But
Yeah.
okay, so StreamYard is choosing to fight against me and doesn't want to show my different browser here. So give me a moment to move some of my images over. But while we do that, I just want to talk about what is now the most successful video in the history of the channel.
Yes. And it was it's of all things a review of a 60-year-old cartoon.
Yes, an off-the-cuff, thrown in at the last minute review of the old Hanna-Barbera cartoon Johnny Quest.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like it blew up. We got a whole bunch of new subscribers. So, hey, thanks everybody for signing up. We hope you enjoy us and stick around. That's enough time to kill. I've managed to get my stuff moved over.
All right.
But the thing I want to kind of address is a couple of. So first off, a lot of people shared their great memories about how this show was. Every cartoon has the opportunity to be somebody's introduction to the world of imagination, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I would say overall, this is a cut above. But I can't think of any cartoon that was technically better on TV at the time.
Yeah, except for maybe Scooby-Doo.
I would say that this is just from like a production level, probably better than Scooby-Doo, but Scooby-Doo is like the competition.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that Hanna-Barbera had like, 70, 80% of the cartoon market buttoned down at its peak.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Also, some people seemed to think I was being overly sensitive when I was pointing out certain things I was noticing about how social mores have passed on. And quite often when I'm talking about certain things, I can be a little bit jocular. So while it was kind of shocking to hear Race Bannon shout something to the effect of, "Take this, you heathen monkeys," to a group of South American tribesmen.
Yeah.
Like, I was less offended and more just like, whoa, times have changed.
Yeah. It's a jarring thing to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I had legitimately thought that somebody had that Freakazoid parody I was talking about had made that line up. So hearing it for the first time in its original context was, jarring is a good word for it.
Yeah.
Now, some people did point out some inconsistencies with the story I mentioned the most. You know what? Fair dinkum. This is something I was kind of watching. I wasn't leaned in. I was like, 3/4 watching it most of the time. But what I will say is that it's a worthy show. There's a reason people even think about it all these years later, and clearly it struck our little silly review struck a chord with a lot of people. So it's, again, to those who watched and commented, thank you. To those who subscribed, double thank you. And we hope that we can continue to earn your business.
Indeed, yes.
Just know that no, I am not overly sensitive about such things. Part of it is, like, imagine I was a food critic, and I know that there is a subset of people out there who hate green peppers in their food. If I go to a restaurant and their main dish is grilled green peppers and they put that on everything, I'm going to mention that in my review because for people who are more sensitive than I, they're not going to like go, whoa, really? And kind of laugh it off and keep watching, they're going to just turn it off and be unhappy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of warnings, warning, maybe don't act as suspicious as humanly possible if you're going to be innocent of a crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
That applies to multiple people in this movie.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So our first review of the night is Juror number 2 from Clint Eastwood. This was a movie that uh, wasn't on a lot of people's radars because Warner Brothers just kind of dumped it on Max, and with really no fanfare whatsoever.
Yeah, I got like a very minimal theatrical release, and then it was just on Max,
Yeah.
which I don't know if what the brain trust over there. Like I usually tend to understand Warner Brothers decision making for things like canceling the Batgirl movie, but sometimes they just are indefensible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it really did Eastwood dirty because he's, not only a legendary actor, filmmaker, but I mean, he's had a long-standing relationship with Warner Brothers, and for them to just, do him dirty like that is just really, especially at his age, and just
Right? Who knows how many more movies he has in him?
yeah. I mean, he's in his mid-90s, which I'm actually honestly I'm surprised he's still directing movies at that age.
I have to imagine, and this is no slight on him, I have to imagine he's probably leaning a lot on his assistants at this point.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But this one is interesting in a number of ways. So first off, let's see here. First off, the guy who they got to play our main character here, who is Nicholas Holt. Actually, no, wait. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'm okay. So I've been doing this for a while. I'm forever thrown off by IMDb's way that they list the actor and character name, and I kind of just wish that they would just mark it clearly.
Yeah.
I always have to look for an actor I recognize to orient myself on it. But
Yeah.
so they have Nicholas Holt there playing Justin Kemp,
Yeah.
and it's kind of startling. I thought I had heard that he was Clint Eastwood's son or something, and I
Oh.
would have totally believed it because they do look very similar.
Yeah, there is a resemblance there. Yeah. He's actually British. He Most people remember him from the X-Men movies. He was Hank McCoy Beast.
Oh, that's right. I'd heard, okay, that's
Yeah.
where I'd seen him before.
And he was also in Mad Max Fury Road. He was the what a lovely day.
So, it's nice that he's getting to be in something a little more serious here.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and this is a pretty good cast here. You got J.K. Simmons as one of the jurors,
Yeah.
Keith Sutherland as excuse me, Kiefer Sutherland as his lawyer buddy,
Yeah.
Zoe Deutsch as his wife.
Yeah. You got Toni Collette is the prosecutor. She's been in a lot of things. She was in a movie, a horror movie called Hereditary, which I've been meaning to watch, but it's one of those real heavy subject matter movies that it's like, I got to be in the right mood for it.
Hey, Daniel, guess what? This isn't the first review that we've watched with her in it. Guess what the previous one we watched with her in it was?
What was it?
She was the grandma in Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken.
Oh, okay.
This is a slightly better movie than that.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So I was kind of clued into this one by the Andrew Klavan podcast, where he used this as a comparison point against a lot of kind of frivolous superhero movies and the like.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was interesting to watch something a bit more adult because you can't eat candy all the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, every now and then you got to eat a steak.
Yep. And that's a good analogy because there's a lot to sink your teeth into on this movie because
Yeah,
it's really a movie about a moral dilemma and it doesn't hold your hand entirely.
right. Yeah, and uh, I guess we'll kind of hold off on spoiler talk because it's hard to talk about this movie without getting into spoilers. Um,
Yeah, I think that anything that really happens in the first 15 minutes is fair game because it's the premise of the movie, and then we can kind of get into spoilerific talk afterwards.
yeah, yeah. So as DB mentioned, Nicholas Hoult plays Justin Kemp. He's a writer for a lifestyle magazine. He's got a wife who is about to give birth, and it's a high risk pregnancy.
Hmm.
Um, but unfortunately for Justin, he's been called for jury duty. And having been called for jury duty in the past, I can tell you it sucks. But most of the time when you get called for jury duty, it's something like really, not nothing too spectacular. But not the case here. He's been called for a murder trial, a rather high profile one, where a guy, name is what was his name? Uh, um, James Michael Scythe is accused of murdering his girlfriend. And his girlfriend was actually played by Eastwood's daughter. Um,
Okay, maybe that's where I got my wires crossed because I've heard that somebody he was related to is in this movie, and also
yeah,
wasn't his wife on the jury too?
Eastwood's wife.
Yeah, like wasn't the old woman on the jury someone or related to someone?
Maybe.
I thought I saw an Eastwood name flash by there that I didn't recognize, but uh, neither here nor there.
Yeah. Uh, Yeah, and so the way it kind of plays out is that they're arguing that he beat her up and then threw her in a ditch. And so Justin gets called for jury duty because he's the perfect juror because he doesn't know anything about this case. Um, but as he gets on the jury, he hears the opening arguments. He quickly realizes that he knows more about it than he thought.
Yeah. So turns out that the night of the murder, he happened to be at the same bar, even though he didn't realize it.
Yeah,
Um, and he was driving home, and he believed that he hit a deer because hits it or hits something, gets out of the car, sees nothing, gets back in the car, drives off,
yeah,
and he realizes, wait, I hit that thing right around where they found her body.
yeah,
And so now he's in the position of if he reveals what he's doing, his life is over.
yeah. Because uh, well, I guess should we get into the spoiler
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. So well, let's go ahead and firewall spoilers. Non-spoiler thoughts. I would say if you're in the mood for a well-shot, pretty serious movie with a lot of nice acting performances, especially reliant on Nicholas Hoult himself to
Yeah,
carry the movie. He does a good job.
yeah,
I would say you could maybe tighten up the pace a little bit because for as tense of a situation as it is, I think you could have done more to drive things forward a bit, but I'm not sure what I would specifically recommend. So it's the most helpful kind of feedback.
yeah. That was my main issue with it was that it was slow in places, and the movie is just under 2 hours, but you, they probably could have cut maybe 20 or 30 minutes out of it.
Yeah, just make something really tight.
Yeah, make it, yeah, like a nice, yeah, like a tight 90 to 100 minutes.
Yep.
Um, but other than that, I mean, it's a I think it's a very solid character drama. And it doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't tell you what you should think or what you should, who you think is right or who you think is wrong. Much like Unforgiven, another Clint Eastwood movie. So yeah, really, very good movie.
Yep. Okay. Spoiler time. So
yes,
if you watch past this point, and you feel that the movie was ruined for you, it's on your own head. I'm sorry. I don't know what. Yeah. Not sure what you're thinking. Continuing to watch after this point.
yeah. Yeah. So Justin, Nicholas Holt's character, he realizes that the murder victim in this case, that she wasn't beaten up and thrown into a ditch by her boyfriend. He actually accidentally hit her, and it was basically a hit and run. Even though at the time it happened, he didn't think he hit a person. He thought he hit a deer because he, like you pointed out earlier, he gets out of the car. Of course, it's pitch black, pouring rain, and he looks at his headlights, got a ding on it, and he sees the deer crossing sign, and he's like, "Oh, great, I hit a deer." But he didn't. He hit whatever can't remember the name of the character. That's
he hit the victim.
He hit the victim. Yeah, Kendall Carter was her name, and so he's grappling with that, and then he goes to his lawyer friend, who's played by Kiefer Sutherland, which was nice to see him, and Larry Lasker, and of course. Larry is not only a lawyer friend, but he's also his AA sponsor, because we find out that Justin is a recovering alcoholic.
Okay. And also Justin, to kind of prove he was having a moment of weakness, and he was at the bar the night of the incident.
Yeah.
And he had bought a drink that he kept looking at longingly before he shoved it away and left.
Yeah. And,
but of course, who in the world is going to believe that?
Yeah, exactly.
If he goes to trial.
Yeah, and we also find out he had a DUI conviction, and
Right.
so that's what Kiefer Sutherland tells him is like, hey, nobody's going to believe you that you left that bar sober, and you're looking at least 30 years to life if you come forward. So now he's Justin's stuck with this moral quandary of, I'm on this juror. I'm a juror on this murder trial. I'm the one who did it. And I know the guy that's on trial is innocent, but I can't do anything about it because if I say something, I'm going to prison, and my wife is, going to be a single mom. And
if the kid survives, because, maybe the stress would cause a miscarriage.
Right. Yeah. And,
although I guess as pregnant as she was, it would probably be viable still, but still, it's not good.
No, it's not good. Yeah. And so he's basically just keeps his head down and goes to the trial. And then where it kind of really gets going is during the deliberations, when all the jurors are in the room and, trying to decide on the verdict. And of course, it kind of has that 12 Angry Men moment where every member of the jury thinks that not every member of the jury, but pretty much all of them think that he's guilty. But Justin's like, well, let's talk about this. Let's let's go through the deliberations, and of course, as DB pointed out, one of the jurors is J.K. Simmons. His character's name's Harold, and then we find out during the course of the deliberations, he's actually a retired detective.
Yep, retired police.
Yeah,
and like so I'd say like so he's investigating, which of course makes him nervous. You have some members of the jury who he can sway, because here's the thing: if he didn't actually kill his girlfriend, then, but by the nature of it, there will be holes in the evidence.
Yeah.
And so he's using those holes to try to get a not guilty plea. But there are some people who are just firm on it, and you get a lot of perspectives on what to do here, because you have one guy, and I thought this was very interesting, but also very true to life. One guy on the jury, he seemed to think, well, what? So nobody should suffer, or like there shouldn't be justice.
Yeah.
And it's like a very like primitive concept of justice, where it's like, oh, well, this young lady died, so someone has to suffer the price.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, well, what if they didn't do it? Like that thought almost seems to be secondary to him.
Yeah. Which, yeah, you don't necessarily want somebody like that on a jury.
No. You have somebody else who noticed that the accused, who did have an anger problem, that had a covered up tattoo that he was was associated with some gang who, what do you know, had sold who had sold drugs, and or no, excuse me, was it the same gang that his brother had died in, or
probably a rival gang, I think.
Okay. Yeah, so you have one guy's like, yeah, no, he's scum because I know what the type of organization he was in.
Yeah, and he was also the he ran the Boys and Girls Club. So he's
our juror ran the Boys and Girls Club, and not the accused.
Right, yeah,
pronoun confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he'd seen enough lives destroyed by the gangs.
Yeah.
And so it's very interesting when you like, if you have like a consequentialist view of justice, rather than enduring moral principles. A consequentialist view of justice would go, okay, well, our main character is turning his life around. He has a kid on the way. He has a good life. He has a wife who needs him. So meanwhile, on the other hand, we have a guy who needs anger management, who was at least verbally abusive to his girlfriend, was a bit rough with her, though she was kind of rough with him too. So
yeah,
alcohol and relationship issues don't mix, especially in public.
Yeah.
And also, on the night in question, she walked off, like she stormed off when he had driven her, and he didn't offer her a ride home because he was angry.
Yeah.
He just followed her for a bit, then let her walk home in the dark, in the pouring rain, which you could argue like that's begging for something to happen to her. Like that's negligent.
Yeah, and on top of that, if I remember right, she was wearing like dark clothing.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, yeah, you're out and it's pitch black, raining, and you're wearing dark clothing, and you're walking on a very narrow bridge. Like, yeah. It's should she have died? No, but it's circumstances.
Right. It's basically opening every door to trouble and asking it to come in.
Yeah.
So if you take a consequentialist view of morality, it's like, okay, well, this guy is probably not doing the world any good. Let's save the guy who is doing the world good and let bygones be bygones. But if you take more of a, justice has to be done. If he didn't actually murder his girlfriend, he should not go to jail for it, no matter the consequences. Let justice be done, and the truth will out. Then, our juror number 2 there should go to prison, or at least go to trial for this.
Yeah.
But what's occurred to me as we're talking about this is that the first stage of jury selection, and they show this in the movie, is that you're supposed to not have any inside knowledge. You're not supposed to bring your outside biases. You're just supposed to go with what you're presented. Yeah. But that's kind of that's a somewhat impossible standard, because I just realized as we're talking through it, everybody has outside information, not just juror number 2. Like they didn't point out in the trial, oh, and the accused was a member of X or such and such gang.
Yeah.
They didn't tell that other guy, oh yeah, well, if somebody died, there has to be some sort of retribution. So we need to find someone guilty.
Yeah.
They didn't tell J.K. Simmons to go investigating on his own because he didn't think the evidence added up.
Yeah, and the other thing too is they weren't sequestered.
Yeah.
So, and for those of you who don't know what that is, usually in like really high profile trials, the members of the jury will be sequestered. And basically, what that means is they're put up in a hotel room somewhere, and they can't watch TV. They can't use the internet. They've really, the only thing they can do is just like read a book.
Right. But these people were just constantly leaving.
Yeah, and which, and they could easily go on the internet and look up this trial, and they could easily look up the accused, find out everything they can about him, all that.
It also occurs to me that we have largely left out Toni Collette's character, the prosecutor, who is kind of reliant on this case as her election campaign. She is not the prosecutor yet, or she's not the DA yet.
Yeah, she's an assistant DA. Yeah, and she's running for DA, and and so even though she's trying, she tries her best to kind of keep those two separate. It's like it's kind of hard not to.
Right, because the polling says she gets a 6-point swing if she gets a conviction here.
Yeah. And then her the accused lawyer, who is a public defender, and it sounds like they're old friends from law school. Mm-hmm. And he's, and of course, most of the time with public defenders, and J.K. Simmons mentions this in the movie, public defenders have like 10 times the workload that prosecutors do, and they don't get paid nearly as much. So most of the time, a public defender will tell a defendant take a plea deal.
And this guy did not.
And this guy didn't. And usually with public, and the lawyer says, most of the time he can tell, well, like the people he's defending, yeah, they're guilty, but he's like 100% convinced that his client's innocent, and of course we know he is.
Yep. And so the way the movie ends is that while the prosecutor is investigating, she eventually pieces together that our juror number 2 is most likely the person who hit her with a car.
Yeah.
And so the movie actually ends on a Lady or the Tiger moment where she just comes to his house and rings his doorbell to confront him, and then it just cuts to credit, so we don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And I think it is just because of that nature of it. It's a movie that wants you to think rather than being told what to think.
Yeah.
And I'm going to reiterate my recommendation for this one if you're in the mood for something more serious and thought-provoking, because even just as we've talked about this, more layers have emerged to me, and this would probably be worth a rewatch, because you don't know everything about the case or about the whole situation at the start, and you kind of go Rashomon a little bit with the night in question, like seeing different perspectives on it. Like, I thought it was kind of funny how the boyfriend, when he was, or the accused, when he was telling his side of the story, kind of left out the explosive bursts of anger.
Yeah.
and then I told her that I wasn't going to take her home.
Yeah.
Left out the blowing up at her.
Yeah. Left out the breaking the beer bottles, and then and then her giving them the finger right in his face. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's streaming on Max now. I don't know if it got a physical release or not. If it did, and it sounds like it's up your alley, I would say this is a piece of art that would be worth supporting. Hey, Warner Brothers, you kind of screwed this one out of a proper release. Come on.
Yeah.
Although I think it was number 1 on Max when we were watching it last week.
It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, definitely give it a watch. And it's definitely worth the 2 hours.
Yeah. All right, so I think we're ready to go from the sublime to the ridiculous, because before we get to our other movie review of the week. We have a variety of nonsense, is the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who are new, we are both a bit weeby.
Mhm.
And so we decided, since the new anime season is coming in, we watched a couple of shows that have had their, at least at the time that we watched them, the first episode had dropped. I believe at least one of them has a second episode now, but we kind of didn't have time to watch that before the show.
Yeah.
Schedules and all that.
Yeah.
So the first one we watched was, and the full title is "The Red Ranger Becomes an Adventure in Another World."
Yes. Although from here on out, we're just going to call it Red Ranger.
Yeah, might refer to it as Red Ranger Isekai.
Yes.
So this is one that. So I think I've mentioned this a couple times recently, that I've just gotten very tired of isekai because, and there's like a few reasons why. Like, there's never any tension from my perspective. It's always the same sort of generic Japanese teen or salaryman who's reborn in the other world. There's nothing interesting about either world, and
Yeah.
and since the character has been reborn, you might as well just have had a character who was born in that world, because it's not like they're ever going to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of it's just wish fulfillment.
Yep. Meanwhile, this one actually has a premise.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah. So so the Red Ranger Isekai is basically the Red Ranger of a Super Sentai team. Name was Togo Asagaki.
Which Asa means red, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah. The Super Sentai Power Rangers shows like to keep those colors coordinated.
or does it mean that? Maybe I'm mistaken.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Togo, he's the Red Ranger in a Super Sentai team, and during their battle with the Breakup King, Breakup Emperor, he ends up getting isekai to this fantasy world, and then he proceeds to spend the next 6 months as an adventurer. Although we don't see that; it's all off screen.
Yeah. By the way, a quick what do you call it? Okay, so never mind. Asagaki is just a ordinary surname.
Okay.
With Asagao meaning morning glory, but I'm not sure if that's related or not. Moving on. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
Yeah, so I think the funny things about that is, it's the Breakup King versus all of his powers, like, or at least all of his weapons have like wedding or relationship based meanings or names.
Yeah.
And like, because it's the bonds of his team's friendship that brought him in, or that gave them their powers.
Right. Yeah. And so then he gets work or gets a job opportunity with what do we call it? Wizard princess, I guess.
Yeah. Named Adola Avon.
And they so she has this little audition where they have to fight one of her golems, and all these adventurers just get their butts kicked. But Togo, he deals with it very easily because he can, he still has his Sentai suit and all the powers and everything.
Yep. And so they go off on an adventure. Their initial adventure is to mine some rare minerals, but by the end of it, they're working towards getting him home.
Yes.
Yeah. And she wants to adventure with him so she can try to reverse engineer his amazing Sentai powers with her own magic.
Yeah, and and it's very there's a lot of kind of parody or spoofing of Sentai shows. Like, every time he morphs, the explosions go off, and she's like right behind him. You're like, hey, would you not do that when I'm right behind you?
Yep. And you also just have like her just questioning, why are you posing like that?
Yeah.
What's with these names?
Yeah. Or they get into the Megazord, and then her brain just breaks. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
what's going on? You also learn why you have to have multiple people pilot the thing, because they start running into trouble when it's just him and her.
yeah, yeah. Yes, the bonds of friendship are, aren't, there aren't enough friends in there.
Yep. So, one episode rule. Would I continue watching this? I think I'll give it another shot. It's something where I could see the style parody maybe getting a little bit dull once they came up, or once they, yeah, run the same joke a few times.
Yeah,
But at the same time, it's very like it's a very nice classic crossover, because both the fantasy world and the Sentai elements are both just very straightforward.
yeah,
Uh, and also, there's more of a goal because he does want to get back home to his world.
yeah, and yeah, because he's got to get back to all his friends.
Uh, we call this a story engine. Like where
Yes,
it gives him a clear goal that he's going to, besides beat the bad guy. And so that means that you can possibly have things happen in the future, like, oh, a bad guy offering him, oh, this trinket can transport you anywhere, but I demand that you give me your transformation gauntlet or whatnot.
yes, or somebody stealing his transformation stuff. Yeah, his gauntlet. Yeah.
Right. And by the way, so I've ended up watching quite a bit of Kamen Rider and Ultraman because of some friends of mine. Not Super Sentai, because Super Sentai is often directed at the smallest of children.
Mm.
But I can tell you that this is a pitch perfect style parody of Japanese uh, of Japanese action TV. Like,
Yes.
you could even sell the toys that he's using to transform, because they are very toyetic.
Yes. Yeah.
Although I will do a minor complaint. One of the maneuvers he does is clearly a rider kick, not something that from Super Sentai.
Oh.
So, although I think they probably all steal that at this point, but
Yeah. Yeah.
still,
Nerd.
nerd, yeah, guilty, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, if yeah, like a lot of light novels, it has an overly long title. Just do a search for Red Ranger Isekai, and it'll come up. It's currently streaming on Crunchyroll. If you if you have any affection for Power Rangers, or just want to see something kind of fun and high octane with good animation, I would say give this a go.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll keep watching it. I'll keep my fingers crossed that it doesn't fall into the usual isekai, traps.
Yeah, I would say it's okay. Just from this image I found here, I am mildly encouraged, because the way they're kind of framing these characters around him,
Yeah.
it's almost more like you would frame villains, rather than, because like you have our main pair here in the center as the
Yeah.
focal point. And this guy is not his waifu.
No.
This thing back here doesn't look like a waifu. This is not the
No.
tip. I don't. I It may go harem. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would probably be the death knell, considering that it's all supposed to be about um, binding together, and uh, not like that, you perverts, but
Yeah.
relationships and whatnot. So here's hoping that if it is a romance story, he keeps true to Eyebrows Lady here.
Yes. Yeah.
In a similar vein, we have our other seasonal anime, the Netflix original Sakamoto Days.
Yes, which is basically John Wick if his wife didn't die and they had a kid and then he got fat.
I'll take it. I'll take that analogy and modify it slightly. It's like if John Wick and Spy Family had a baby.
Ah, okay, yeah,
Because yeah, and this one has a much more straightforward premise than even the Red Ranger show, um, which is, Sakamoto, top assassin for the Yakuza, meets the right girl, settles down, has a kid, and then the Yakuza shows up to try and unalive him because he knows things.
Yes, and he's running a convenience store in a quaint little Japanese town. And the assassin they send is a guy who happens to be clairvoyant. He can read minds.
Which is kind of a cheat considering that Sakamoto, I don't think he ever actually says anything out loud in the entire episode.
I think he does like near the end.
Okay.
But
So,
like I think he does near the end, but no, you're right. Yeah, he didn't talk really at all.
yeah, which is what allows the our assassin here to communicate with them.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so the assassin shows up and he's like, he sees Sakamoto and he's just like, wait, he's a fat guy now. He's got a wife and kid. I don't want to kill him. But the
Yep.
Yakuza are like, no, you need to kill him. Like,
Nobody leaves us.
yeah. And but Sakamoto might have more girth than he did before, but he's still got the skills.
He is not slowed down in the slightest.
No.
So, so I had actually read this a bit of this manga a few years back. Shonen Jump app is nice just because you can sample a lot of things, and you can. I think I can often tell when something is going to last and get to become a TV show, and I think that I kind of had that feeling about this one.
Mm.
I would say that the strengths of it, it has very nice action scenes, several of them actually. I decided to double check the Shonen Jump app. They did not, in fact. I had remembered it as a 4-koma, which is basically like a Japanese Garfield strip. Yeah, just like it's not the same format though. It is just a little bit. It is not plot heavy.
Yeah.
It is gag and action heavy.
That makes sense. That fits with the episode. Yeah.
Yep. So I would say that if you're looking for a deeper plot, go elsewhere. Because okay, maybe this is just me. The only character who actually, okay, so static characters are not in and of themselves a bad thing, especially if your goal is just to be funny.
Yeah.
Like you'd have to kind of complain a bit, or you'd be wrong to complain that Homer Simpson doesn't have a character arc.
Yeah.
I think that our psychic on the left there is the one who has the best chance of developing over time. And there's something funny about having a young assassin who is been forcibly recruited to become a convenience store guy or convenience store employee, and like him having to adjust to that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm entirely on board with this one. Might give the second episode a go. Just because I do tend, like, this is my bias. I either like things to be totally screwball, or I like to have or I like to have a character arc. And this one's kind of riding the line of like I could see myself getting tired of this after 5 episodes if they even at the same quality.
Yeah. That's kind of my fear too, is that they just kind of start repeating the same gags, and it's just like, okay, can we do something else? Can we? And it's kind of part of the problem I have with Spy Family. Kind of falls into the same issue with me, where it's just kind of like you're not really building to anything, or the thing you're building to, you're taking a really circuitous route to it. And
I've been keeping up on the Spy Family manga, and I'm on volume, let's see, what's the current one? 13, 14, 15, something like that. And they're finally giving yours something to do outside of the family.
Yeah.
At least outside of her immediate job and the family. And this has less of a driving force behind it than Spy Family does, because it's just like, what's going to show up at the convenience store this week?
Yeah, and that's probably what the probably what the running thing is going to be. It's going to be like villain of the week, sort of, where who's the Yakuza going to send this week, or who's some old enemy looking to settle the score with him, or
will some femme fatale former lover of his show up and be like shocked that he has a wife and kid now? Actually, I'm kind of talking myself into thinking of more storylines than I was originally imagining.
Yeah.
If anything, I think the weak link is almost our psychic over there, because like, why he's the only guy in this world that, like, everyone knows he has psychic powers, or at least everyone in the Yakuza does. Like, is that just a thing in this world?
Yeah. Well, and even Sakamoto, it's like, is he like some kind of like superhuman mutant, or does he
Yeah.
have some kind of like special powers or something?
Yeah. So I would say, nice action animation and scenes. The comedy, I would give like a C+ or a B- for my personal taste on it. It could go somewhere interesting. It could stagnate.
Yeah.
A second, I would have to watch a second episode to see. I'm going to give this one a mixed recommend.
Yeah. Yeah, same here.
All right, so Daniel and I, for the new people in the crowd, will often watch or read something entirely separate. And I decided to knock something off of my to-read list, which was Cash Grab, the crowdfunded comic by the Comicscape personality Cecil.
Yes.
This comic book took a very long time to come out. I got mine last year after ordering it in 2021, I believe.
I think that sounds right. Yeah, 2021. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, it is unfortunately the reality for a lot of crowdfunded comics that aren't made by Daniel Parker to be late.
Indeed, yes.
by years on end.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have liked this much more if it had been timely. It's basically, it is about Cecil. Cecil is, for the various live streams he's on, he is known for being a raconteur. He's the guy who's there who will make the inappropriate statement. He'll tell a random story. He'll make a lewd joke at just the right moment to get everybody helplessly laughing. He has this great voice. He wears a hat that always has DICK on it for diversity, inclusion, compassion, and kindness.
Yes.
And this is basically about that version of Cecil, who has decided that he's going to become New York's newest superhero. And I could spend 10 minutes going over the plot of this thing, but what I will say is that there are a bunch of ideas that you could use to make a cool comedy book out of this, but it tries to deploy all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
So there is a story about a planet of Amazon women who once every century empower a new person to become basically their stud. Because they have no men, so they have to find, they just abduct some human and make him a superhuman. There's a plot line about the mayor, or is either the mayor or the DA, who's behind in the polls, trying to nail Cecil to the wall because he keeps causing troubles. You get Cecil's backstory, which is actually based on the streamer's real backstory of where he was a successful guy, got fired, got fat, I think he was fired from his job in finance because he got a drug problem, as he's told it. If that's not correct, then it's been actually about the last time I saw Cecil in a live stream was when I ordered this book originally. So
yeah. And if I remember too, he was living with his sister for a while.
Yeah.
And then she kicked him out.
Yeah. There's a storyline where he's trying to help this woman. he's trying to get this woman's purse back because he thinks that she'll be all upons if he does it.
Yeah.
That there's a storyline where he has a love interest who is a stripper, who's like way too good for him. And a bunch of other just random gags. Now the art is done by Donald DeLay, who is a fine artist, and the book is basically proudly juvenile, is the way I'll put it. Like every woman is drawn with massive tracts of land. And it must be cold wherever they're at all the time.
Oh, yeah.
The art kind of has a rambunctious anime/manga quality to it. Actually kind of reminds me a bit of what's his name? Humberto Ramos, the artist most known for Spider-Man.
Okay.
Let me pull up a sample just so you can kind of just so I can let the nice people see what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I've always really liked Donald's his art. It's really it has that kind of cartoonish style to it, but
here's an old picture from when Humberto was, I believe he did a run on The Flash with Mark Waid in the 90s. Might be misremembering, but I think that's where I first saw him. But yeah, that's very much what the art in the book is like.
Okay.
And it unfortunately commits the greatest sin that a comedy can commit, which is that it's not all that funny, unfortunately. Most of the gags, at least, again, comedy is subjective, but just for me, it felt like it was. I think Cecil has a brand of comedy that doesn't necessarily translate to the written word.
More stand up,
right?
Yeah.
But I think that if they I think the storyline that probably would have worked the most magic would have been the Amazon one that I brought up first, because that's a funny situation for a fat degenerate to end up in, right?
Yeah.
How is he going to screw this up?
Yeah. Sort of reminds me of the Futurama episode.
Death by Snoo Snoo.
The spirit is willing, but the flesh is spongy and bruised.
Yeah. So now Cash Grab 2 is currently funding over on Fund My Comic. Apparently, I don't think I can recommend it, but again, I'm here to kind of direct you in a direction. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to tell you what I think. And if what I'm saying sounds like, oh, no, I love chaotic, crazy comics with a billion different ideas and that are just kind of vaguely lewd and funny, then have that. I'm sure you can get a copy of this with the campaign.
Yeah.
Because they love to sell back issues on crowdfunding, because then you don't have to work much for it or with the extra $1.
Yes, I'm guilty of that myself.
Indeed. And then Daniel's thing. Yes, I don't have a transition for this.
Carson's Farm, season 3. Yes. I've already watched this, but I'm going back and rewatching it because season 4 is coming out in a few months. But I think I talked about season 2 before, but yeah. So season 3 picked up in 2022, so a few years ago, and a lot of things happened at the farm. Most of them were not good. So at the end of season 2, Clarkson opened up a restaurant on the farm because he got a bunch of cows, and his whole thing was getting the cows, and then having different beef products in the restaurant, and but he was constantly getting what's the right word I'm looking for? The town council kept stopping him from doing it because they don't like him for some reason, even though he's bringing a lot of attention to British farming. He's bringing a lot of revenue into the town where the where the farm is nearby. So it's a little odd. So it's just they're very strange. But he had to close the restaurant because the town council told him he couldn't have it. And he's of course had battles with trying to keep his shop open, and on top of that, they're haven't been able to harvest a whole lot of crops because the UK was going through a drought at the time.
Mm.
And so a lot of what they had they couldn't use. And but Clarkson, being the self-described genius that he is, has a new plan. So season 1 he had sheep. Season 2 was cows. Season 3, pigs.
So every season has a different theme.
Yes, yeah, and so he takes one of the farm fields that he has and converts it into a pig farm, and and of course, right off the bat, he doesn't really do it very well because Caleb, who's the guy on the left of Clarkson, there, he went from being the farm hand, he actually got promoted to farm manager, and Caleb tells him, he's like, pigs have like 15 nipples. Like, yeah. He said they have big litters, and so he's having the cows or the pigs, all mating at the same time, and he's like, you're gonna have like 50 piglets.
Yeah.
And so Carson's like, oh no. And so then he's dealing with the different aspects of trying to raise pigs and everything, and which is actually was really challenging and really sad because apparently they talked to some other hog farmers, and I don't know if you can confirm this or not, DB, but apparently pigs are really bad mothers.
Huh. I've heard that for various domesticated animals that we've bred some of the mothering instincts out of them.
Okay. Yeah, because what ended up happening is a lot of the mothers end up like crushing the piglets, just like laying on top of them, and it actually got so bad. Like Clarkson actually, and he came up with the design for it, and then it was built by somebody else, but they named it the Clarkson ring, and they put a patent on it. And it's basically they put this metal ring around the shed thing where they keep the hogs, so that it keeps the mom will sit down on it and won't crush the piglets. But yeah, there's that part of it, and of course the other aspect is Gerald there, who's at the far end there, he's really quite the character. It become really real beloved character on the show, even though you can only understand about every third word he says. But he sadly at the beginning of the season he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, but thankfully, like by the way, it's not unusual for men. He's in his mid-70s, and it's really not unusual for men that age to get prostate cancer, and it's also very treatable. So he lucked out.
Catch it early.
Yeah, they caught it early. Yeah. I mean, my grandfather had prostate cancer when he was around that age. So I mean, it happens. But he was lucky. And recent news, he's still cancer free. So
that's excellent.
Yeah, but yeah, this is Clarkson, being Clarkson, trying to do his best to be as good a farmer as he can, although many times he ends up screwing up and makes things worse, and which is kind of I was talking about it with BB before the show that there's a theme with him and the other guys who are on Top Gear and the Grand Tour that everything they do just always goes wrong.
Yep.
But he's actually despite all of that, I mean, the farm is very successful, the show's very successful, and hopefully one of these days I'll be able to try one of his beers.
We can only hope. Now,
Yes.
I do have one observation, but it isn't my observation.
Yeah.
I saw somebody post on Twitter, British people always make fun of Americans for having HOAs. In Britain, the HOA is called the town council, and you can't move away from them.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
It sounds interesting. I might give it a second shot if I had an Amazon Prime subscription, which I currently don't.
Oh, yeah. You broke the conditioning.
I broke the conditioning. Who knows? Maybe I'll get an Amazon Prime subscription for my birthday, my sweet 16.
Ah, yes.
That's a bit in the rearview mirror, but never mind. So 16 Candles.
Yes, the classic John Hughes coming of age teen comedy romance
drama thing.
Yeah. What was that?
The drama thing.
It's drama thing. Yes.
It's carrying a lot of genres.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Not to be confused with another John Hughes movie that starred Molly Ringwald, Pretty in Pink, which I have not seen that one, but my mom really likes that movie.
I'm not gonna lie. I think I've heard things about Pretty in Pink that I had assumed would be in this movie that apparently weren't. So I guess in my mind I just conflated them.
Yeah, well, it's easy to do. Yeah, or conflated them all with The Breakfast Club.
Right. Yeah. Which that was another John Hughes, right?
Another John Hughes and Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall was in that one.
Okay, that makes sense of something I read where he started making things like Uncle Buck because he didn't want to get pigeonholed as a teen guy.
Yeah. Same with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Yeah, he wanted to do more adult movies. But before John Hughes worked with John Candy, he worked with Molly Ringwald. Like all of John Hughes's movies, we're in suburban Chicago. Where we meet.
I swear with Christmas Vacation, if they hadn't already reestablished that family lived in Indiana, they would have been in Chicago.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I just
that's that out. That's all right. So we meet Samantha, who's or Sam as her family calls her. That's Molly Ringwald, and it's over this one particular weekend where her older sister, what was her
name? Blondie. We'll just call her Blondie.
Blondie, yeah. Well, the problem is her
Blondie was Blondie 1, Blondie 2.
Yeah, Blondie 1, Blondie 2. Yeah, Ginny, I think was her name, Ginny. So her sister's getting married, and of course they've got all kinds of. She's in the middle, and she's got a younger brother, and she's got two sets of grandparents who are coming in for the wedding, and they're all staying at the house, and of course through all the chaos and everything, every member of her family forgot that it was her 16th birthday. And so she spends most of the day just sulking about it, and she's filling out this like questionnaire that her friend gave her, which is kind of has a lot of very intimate questions. And then one of the questions that she is who does she really like, or who does she want to sleep with? And it's a guy in her class named Jake, and of course she's a sophomore, he's a senior, and she crumples up or she kind of crumples up the note and tosses it back to her friend who's sitting behind her, but her friend's asleep, so she doesn't see it. And Jake sees it and looks at it. So now, so her crush knows that she likes him, and we kind of go off from there.
Yep. And so this one is very much a how to put it? It's very much a slice of life movie. Like it has a plot which is basically will they, won't they? But it takes a lot of deviations in between.
Yeah, there's like I said, you know, her sister getting married. She's got the geek played by Anthony Michael Hall, who keeps hitting on her in a very aggressive, awkward way, which if he did that 35, 40 years later, he would be canceled, and
okay, so I pulled up on Discord some of the comments I sent you while I was watching this.
Yeah.
That's your my favorite one. What I said was man, women are so demanding, wanting the hot, polite guy from study hall instead of the nice guy who invades her space, hits on her, touches her without permission, and is generally unappealing. What a fun sell.
Yeah. Yeah, total incel. Yeah. Femcel. Yeah.
Femcel. Important difference.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and of course the other part of it is Jake has a girlfriend. This is blonde number 2. What was her? Let's see what Caroline. And Caroline is the typical shallow. Okay, so the reason DV had the joke of blonde 1 and blonde 2 is that both of the blondes in this movie are very shallow, vapid people.
Yes.
So it's kind of hard to tell them apart. One
is the sister, one is her romantic rival.
Yes. And the other part of it too is speaking of mildly racist or racist tropes.
Dong, where's my automobile?
Yes. So one of the grandparents has a foreign exchange student living with them. A kid from Japan named Duck Dong.
No, he's from China.
Oh, it's China. Okay,
I'm pretty sure it's China. You know what? Let's.
Well, the actor is Japanese, I think.
Right, but I think they described him as Chinese.
Oh, Chinese. Okay, it's probably Chinese. Yeah.
Long Duck Dong. All right. Yep, the character is a Chinese exchange student. But see, I can see where he'd be confused because Japanese actor, but also, he keeps saying like bonsai and other like. Okay, in King of the Hill when they met Khan, who's the Laotian.
Oh yeah.
So are you Chinese or Japanese? Congratulations, you know less about the difference between different Asian cultures than King of the Hill.
Yeah.
Of course, then Hank Hill at the start of the series.
Yeah. Then, they had Cotton, who's like, he's Laotian, ain't you, Mr. Khan?
Oh, I forgot that line.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know how to call it, long or dong.
I have a friend of mine who's Chinese, and he always jokes, "I'm tired of being cast as ethnic pervert number 3. I can be ethnic pervert number 2. So we'll call this guy ethnic pervert number 1. How about that?"
Pervert, well, yeah. Well, yeah, because every time they say his name, you hear gong in the
background. A gong goes gong.
Gong.
I think one time they even have the da 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 music sting, but I might be misremembering.
No, they did. Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah, I think it was when he was driving the car to the party.
And that's right. They had that because he was planning turning Japanese on the car.
Right. Yeah. And so basically the whole crux of the movie is the goings on with of different teen aspects in the backdrop with, you know, Sam and Samantha and Jake, you know, kind of wistfully looking at each other and kind of passing each other by. And of course, Samantha's just like, oh God, you know, I'm such a dork. I'm so awkward. And
I'm so plain.
yeah.
Oh, come on. Molly Ringwald was adorable at the time.
Yes, she was. Yeah. And what's funny too is in the Breakfast Club, she's the popular girl in that movie. So it's just like, okay, so she goes from the adorable dorky girl to the popular cheerleader girl in Breakfast Club.
She has acting range, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I had never seen this movie before, oddly enough. But it's a phenomenon that usually happens with UDB where you know, you've never seen the movie, but you're familiar with like all of the things that happen into it. Like when another movie or TV show references it, you know, the reference. That's kind of what I had with this movie, where like, I mean, I'd never seen the movie, but I knew all of the references. Like I knew all of like some of the gags and the jokes, like the, you know, like the long duck dong and the scene with the underpants, you know, stuff like that. I've known about that, you know, but it's I would say overall it's, you know, it's not my favorite John Hughes movie. That might be a little sacrilegious to say, but I mean it's, you know, it's a nice little like you said, slice of life movie. You know, nice little picture into what it was like to be a high school student in the mid '80s.
Yeah, I'd say it's very sincere in its own way. Now, there are a lot of angles where this movie would not get made today, and calling balls and strikes, there's some aspects that you know, that isn't necessarily the worst thing, but also it's like, like teens get drunk at illicit parties and hook up, gasp.
Yes. Yeah.
Call the National Guard.
Yeah.
Gasp. Drunk people make poor decisions.
Yeah.
Although, okay, Geek is okay. So, did you ever see the Robot Chicken sketch about Revenge of the Nerds, where the guy is actually prosecuted for date rape because of what he did to the cheerleader?
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
The geek here is very close to the same kind of treatment. He doesn't go quite that far, but he still has a drunk girl in the back of his car for extended periods of time, kind of taking advantage.
Yeah.
Not if not physical advantage, then you know, like trying to use her to boost his reputation.
Yeah.
Like I would say that I would call this like for me it's like a C on the enjoyment scale. My favorite scenes actually weren't about the teen stuff, weirdly enough. It was just little things like I had to look up what a bohunk was because that's what the family was obsessed with, the fact that the sister was marrying a bohunk. She thought they all thought that was the biggest thing in the world, which bohunk is just like a term for somebody from Southern or Eastern Europe.
Yeah. The future in-laws are they got the hands in a lot of different businesses.
Yeah. Video game arcades, laundry, cigarette machines, and trucking. So basically a whole bunch of coin-op businesses where it's very easy to wash the money, if you will.
Yes.
I would say like this where I saw the Uncle Buck similarity was there's actually a very touching scene between Molly and her dad at one point.
Oh yeah.
Also, Molly started off. I was worried I was going to hate Molly through the whole movie, but she was like, because on the one hand, it is very understandable to be upset that your birthday was forgotten, but she was just a very self-involved teenager, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wasn't worried because knowing that it's a John Hughes movie, like typically his characters always go through an arc. You know, they start out the people they start off with at the beginning of the movie aren't who they are at the end of the movie. with maybe like Ferris Bueller the exception. I don't think Ferris Bueller ever. I don't think he learned anything at the end of that movie.
Ferris Bueller's history's greatest monster.
Yeah.
Cameron did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, it's just like, again, I wouldn't call, again, my favorite scenes were about the non-teenagers, but you know what? Former failed middle school teacher who maybe I don't like teenage antics that much. I might have a bias, so mileage may vary.
Yeah.
Also, this would definitely get slapped with an R rating today if it didn't have one at the time.
It was PG.
We've gotten soft as a society.
Yes, we have. although to be fair, this movie came out the year that they had created the PG-13 rating. So
okay, yeah, this would have definitely gotten that rating if it had come out a year later.
Yes, because there's one F-bomb and boobs.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say that I am increasing through the course of this podcast my John Hughes appreciation, because I basically, watching Uncle Buck first is almost like jumping right to the end in terms of like the classic era.
Yeah.
And seeing him as a fully developed artist. So this is kind of interesting just to see where he started, see the similarities. Also, the relationship that this movie set up, I don't think is going to last at all, because I feel like the hunk boyfriend there, like, he's 2 years older than her. He's about to graduate. He's not sticking around for his plain Jane 16-year-old girlfriend who he got interested in because he just happened to find out that she was interested in him, and decided that he wanted somebody different than his current boring blonde hottie. Yeah.
Well, good thing that John Hughes didn't do a sequel to this.
Yep, 17 Candles would have been a very different movie.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would give it a if you're new to John Hughes movies, this would probably be a good jumping off point.
Yep.
And then just slowly do this, and then like maybe Breakfast Club, and then Ferris Bueller, and work your way up to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Uncle Buck.
Yep. And it is currently streaming on Netflix.
Yes. Indeed. Yeah. Well, I think we said all we need to say for tonight. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it as always, and thank you again for all of our new subscribers.
Indeed.
We appreciate all of you. Obviously, like the stream, and ring the bell for the notifications so you won't miss when we go live or when we upload these the segments of the stream into individual videos, and also keep an eye out too. I'm going to start trying to regularly do solo reviews, mainly focusing on horror, because DB has other things he has to do rather than watch a horror movie.
Yeah. Darn, I'd love to watch Chainsaw Massacre with you, but that's the week getting my pipes fumigated.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, well, I completely understand.
Well, good, because I don't.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yes, thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Night, everybody.
Good night.